Future improvements depend upon how much of present efforts go into developing the internal resources of a group and how much into seeking political changes in the surrounding society.
That said that if that Hunter Biden laptop story
have any arguments against that right now, and I want to see how it goes. One reason why I've been made aware of a new social media platform called Walkaway Social, right? The reason why I bring that up is because I was given the privilege of interviewing a young lady who is blowing up all over the internet because of her testimony that was from Walkaway Social. And her name is Locked In with Zaza Zakia and her husband, Darrell, who are doing amazingly with their telling their stories and people following along with their journeys. But the one thing that made me start to lean more conservative was Thomas Sowell, all right? And I was reluctant to listen to what he had to say, because everything he had to say completely went against everything I've been learning in my 40 plus years at the time of being introduced to him. And I've been introduced to him probably like a year and a half ago. If you go back, you'll see some of our videos looking at Thomas Sowell content. But he has a new video out right now, and it's called Why Some Groups Are Doomed to Stay at the Bottom. And I'm very interested in checking this out with you all. Hopefully you will check it out with me so we can have a great discussion. And apparently this is from one of his books called Migrations and Cultures. I actually have a couple of Thomas Sowell books that people have sent me. Thank you so much.
It may sound noble to say that cultures are merely different, not better or worse in any way, and that it is all a matter of perceptions and preferences. But this argument contradicts itself by saying that one way of looking at cultural differences is better, the way of cultural relativism preferred by a fringe of contemporary intellectuals, rather than the way preferred by the vast majority of other human beings around the world, and down through the centuries. These cultural differences do not matter only if cause and effect do not matter. But those who wish to be spared the devastations of diseases which have plagued the human race from time immemorial must either have the cultural capital of modern medical science themselves, or have access to others who do. Smallpox, for example, continued to ravage the peoples of Eastern Europe and the Balkans long after the nation had brought it under control elsewhere in Europe, because this was one of the many forms of cultural capital that came belatedly to these regions. Even after modern medicine became accessible to the poorer peoples of Europe, the same diseases continued to ravage poorer peoples more remote from the centers of Western medical advancement. It was not just a matter of perceptions and preferences. Widely varying amounts and kinds of cultural capital make economic and social disparities among groups and nations virtually inevitable. Yet the political temptation is to overlook the causal influences of differences in cultural capital, which often go far back into history, and instead to attribute these disparities to current failures of society.
I was shocked, man. I was shocked, and people have the heart at first to do some good things, to do some good for the communities they claim to represent. They have the heart for it at first. But then after they taste a little bit of that money, ooh, I can become rich off of this. And then they lock in with other people who are also great at race hustling and culture hustling. It all turns bad from that point. But what he's talking about when it comes to the different cultures, like we like to accept the fact that they live how they live over there. We need to mind our business. They live how they live over there. That's their business. They love living that way. They're fine. But in these different cultures, you also have the same illnesses, the same sicknesses that, well, sometimes even worse illnesses and sicknesses in those areas, but they don't have the resources to be able to, for everyone to be better and be healed. You know what I mean? And that's always going to be an issue. I don't care what we believe or how we try to compare our culture with theirs. Fact still remains that if a cure was out there for certain diseases that are being spread at a rapid pace and people are dying, but yet those people cannot afford it, or they don't have the reach to get out there and get it, or their government are just controlling it and to a point where they're only selling it to the highest bidders, then the people at the bottom will remain there. They will remain at the bottom, especially if people like Al Sharpton notice that it's lucrative to keep them at the bottom. And so that's exactly what happens.
And instead, to attribute these disparities to current failures of society. For example, the head of the leading black civil rights organization in the United States declared in 1994, almost half of all African American children live in poverty. Black unemployment is twice that of whites. The infant mortality rate in many black communities is equal to that of many third world nations. The statistics for housing, crime, and education deliver a tragic statement of despair and inequality. Yet in polls, more than 60% of whites say blacks now have equal opportunity.
I'm of that thinking. Now, Thomas Sowell may prove me wrong, but I'm of that thinking that black people do have equal opportunity. If not only equal opportunity, but we have a better chance at succeeding. We do. I would like to get into government contracting. I've learned how to provide a service. I'm building a business off of the information that I've learned over the last few years, and I'm actually moving forward toward my goals. What I'm learning is that if you are a minority, you can get contracts much faster. And I'm talking about from the federal government, who have money allotted for nothing but contracts. You can get them contracts much faster than any other race. And if you're a double minority or triple minority, then it gets better and better and better for you. So yes, we do have equal opportunities out here right now, in my opinion. But then other people will call me naive because of the systems that are set up and because of the cap. Like once you get to a certain level, they gonna shut you down, or whoever they is. And I'm 45 years old right now. I don't really give in to conspiracy theories or nothing like that. They has been mentioned so much that I believe that there is a they out there. I don't believe that the they that's out there is the same they that they want me to believe it is, but I'll find out when I find out. But opportunities are plentiful out there.
The very possibility that these disparities might be due to cultural differences affecting behavior and attitudes, or to differences in the human capital brought into the workplace, rather than to the behavior of the larger society, received no attention whatever, either in this statement or in much of the media or the academic world. Yet, when all this was being said, black American married couples with college degrees were at the same income level as white American married couples with college degrees.
Doing things the right way, nuclear family, like people don't understand that that's a business that puts you in a better position. You can lean on someone else who's also thriving to do better in life. You're sharing finances. You're sharing a dwelling. The dwelling is in both of you all's on both of your names. It works toward your benefit when it comes to your credit scores and other opportunities that you can get out there in the world. But a lot of people run away from it because they believe it's a trap of some sort, or they want to believe that because they're selfish, or because they just want to do things themselves, and it just sets us back. But like he said, when you look at the married couples who are doing things the right way, those married black couples were making the same as other married white couples. They were doing well. And then what happens? Not only are they doing well, but their offspring will do well. Their children have a better opportunity of going to nice schools, going to good schools. And if they go to a bad school, even if they go to a bad school and they're living in an area that is not the best and don't provide the best resources, they still have their mother and father in the house who are teaching them things that other people in their areas are not being taught. They have certain values that they too will be able to pass on to other people in the future. And those things actually attribute to success once they do it over and over and over again. I know I'm jumbling up my words. Hopefully you're picking up what I'm putting down, but the nuclear family does position us to do better in life. And I've seen that firsthand from me and my wife. Me and my wife didn't have anybody to go off of when we decided to. We didn't have a blueprint to look at and to follow when we decided to become man and wife, when we decided to become husband and wife, after we had our first daughter, before we were married, right out of high school, headed to college. She was pregnant already. And since I grew up with no mother in the home and no father in the home, I did not want my children to be the same way. So I did not complete my college education, which was free because I was in the system my entire life as a foster child. And they said if I graduated with a 2.0 or better, that I get to go to school for free. And I messed that all up by, impregnating my then girlfriend, who is now my wife of 25 years. But I decided to work full time to make sure that my children never had to deal with anything that I dealt with. So we will have our own apartment. We will eventually have our own house. We will eventually be able to do things that, just I was able to, my wife and I together were able to do some things, some amazing things that we never saw being a part of our plan because we really didn't have anybody else to show us that this was possible. All right. Although we did have Reverend Jordan and Laverne, who really did help us out when it came to spiritual guidance, sometimes even financial help, from what I'm understanding, because I didn't think that we ever needed anybody financially, but apparently they helped us out here and there. My wife will go to her dad, and he'll help us out sometimes. But at the end of the day, we figured it out early that we can do this. It'd be much smoother if we do this together and we do this the right way. We do this the way that God wanted us to do this, and it works out. And that's what he's talking about right now. It does actually work out. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet for the rest of this.
Even a quarter of a century earlier, black males raised in homes with books and library cards were at the same income level as white males raised in homes with similar advantages and similar
Books
education.
and library cards.
While infant mortality rates were higher among blacks in general than among whites in general, infant mortality rates among black intact families were lower than among white female-headed families, even when those white females had more education than black females living with their husbands. In short, lifestyle differences have had major impacts on social misfortunes, though only minor impact on much thinking about those misfortunes. The issues reach beyond questions of blaming a group or assigning guilt to society.
Yes.
Future improvements depend upon how much of present efforts go into developing the internal resources of a group and how much into seeking political changes in the surrounding society.
Yes.
The implications of cultural development, as well as cultural differentiation, affect not only such issues as intergroup differences in economic progress, but also race and racism as factors in such progress.
Nice. All right, so I'm glad y'all checked that out with me, because just with that little bit, I got a whole lot out of it. A lot of times we like to blame groups. We like to blame specifically white people. We blame the government. We blame whoever we blame for our lack is just ridiculous. At some point, we need to look at ourselves, look within, do things the right way, fix some things that need fixing, and keep it pushing. Like, keep it moving. Like, move with some tenacity, some like we want to achieve something. All right.